So we see you again on the media, Pauline, after a win in the New South Wales court before some judicial proceedings. And it might enlighten you to look into the past and see that someone else suffered at the hands of government-type people as well. And you'll come to realise that that was the beginning of what we see across a stage today. And we look at what you said in the media about being a party and having an executive and being the CEO of this party, which means it's a corporation, Pauline. It's a corporation. How does that fit in with Section 44 of the Constitution? And how does this represent a people when your corporation are not a representative of the people? I'm just trying to grasp my head around why you've all changed this country into corporations. And it might have something to do with the rules of Usufruct, Pauline. The rules of Usufruct. Because what are we seeing right now across the entire media space that's been done at the hands of this communist government? Of course, it's the shutting down of all our energy supplies in a Usufruct agreement. Now, they're our energy supplies. They belong to the Australian Imperial Crown and the Commonwealth of Australia by its constitution, Pauline. Everyone's a citizen to that constitution, Pauline, and you're the administrator to that constitution. So can you explain to the people why, as an administrator, you would want to shut down their coal power plants and stop using the coal that's in their very own ground that allows them to run those power plants for low-cost energy? Why are you invading all their farmland with solar panels and wind turbines that have got to be disposed of at the end of their life use, which is usually between 8 and 10 years, Pauline? It's not a very long time to have a wind turbine running. And then at the end of life, Pauline, what do you do with all the waste materials, i.e. these fiberglass blades that are massive and can't be disposed of? What do you do with all these solar panels that break down and then can't be disposed of? This is going to become a very large problem of rubbish that this government has left upon us, because what's it doing, Pauline, at a mineral end? It's creating these panels to be able to be bought in the first place. It's creating these batteries from its mines so that they can be bought in the first place. And if they can manipulate an entire society into accepting that they should run their lives off batteries, then just like the oil oligarchy of the past, you end up dependent on a battery supplier, don't you, Pauline? Instead of being self-reliant on the nature and the energies of the nature around you and the mineral wealth that's in your own country to support your own country. And we see Albo today destroying the energy services of this country, which will eventually destroy industry like it did in Germany, Pauline. And we can see that it's the modus operandi of money men that have decided that your coal power plants are of no value to them and you have no money left to run these coal power plants, so they just shut them down and turn you into the services of their new energy supplies, because they're the trade controllers of those energy supplies, Pauline. And as a Crown, you don't stop a corporation in privatisation of the people's assets. No. You help that corporation further privatise the people's assets and undermine things like their heritage, Pauline. Because over the last 40 years, we've seen you as an occupying administrating power, i.e. a foreign crown, come and mine everybody's land in this country to the point where you have actually mined Aboriginal heritage sites, to the point where you have actually removed Aboriginal heritage from the land. That is the fault of the St Edward's Crown, Pauline. The St Edward's Crown did that after coming here in 1954 and setting up government in 1967 in a usufruct game, Pauline, in a usufruct game. And this leads to how we can define these things on the court record, Pauline, in this game of usufruct. See, our assets are being stolen, our assets are being abused because it's a contract, isn't it, Pauline, as an administrator, in the absence of any form of executive in the people. That's the nannying that you do because the son didn't grow up until now. And now the son has the upper hand in naked ownership to the house, Pauline, and looks at the nanny and says, why have you broken all of these rules and committed criminal offences in father's house? This is the reality, Pauline. While you shut down all of the people's services and tell them that they will own nothing. Well, we're home and you're running our house. It's our father's house, Pauline, linked to a stone of remembrance in the shrine of remembrance in a king's domain, defined on court record as naked ownership to that constitution, Pauline. This puts you in a pretty legal quandary in the sense that the administrator has gone outside of the rules by which it's supposed to administer, Pauline, and it's lied to all peoples while doing it and defrauded the economy at the same time, Pauline. There's very, very stark fraud that has happened on the principle on which you are supposed to administer, Pauline. There's a very stark defrauding of the people's wealth in the absence of any executor or kingship in a kingdom to oversee any constitution, to point out the offences that are occurring. And this is what we're seeing today, Pauline, as we listen to you on the media talk about the executive and talk about your wins in Supreme Court. Now, you might want to look at my history and where this all started for me is kind of rather embarrassing for the government, isn't it? When this has come full circle to be their modus operandi, Pauline. Their modus operandi, Pauline. And it's kind of shameful that it's taken this long for people to realise what these people actually are and that a conspiracy is actually occurring inside the parliament. And the law concerned doesn't concern the parliament itself when the parliament itself has become a pack of criminals, Pauline. There are justices that will hear those accusations against the parliament itself, Pauline. And this is where we file criminal actions in the Supreme Court if we have to. Your AFP failed to stand up and failed to adhere to the criminal code and failed to adhere to the laws of international law at which you are duty and obligated to by oath, then it's quite obvious and serious that negligence is occurring and you've allowed a conspiracy to take over not only the Senate, Pauline, but the House of Representatives and the Prime Minister's office. We could go back to the last election and look at the actual clown show that it became and question the election itself, Pauline. Question the election itself just merely by the clown show that went on surrounding the election, Pauline. Just merely by the fact that you used these Australian Federal Police to bring sound weapons out against the citizenry, Pauline. Against the citizenry, Pauline. What does that demonstrate to you, Pauline? Do war crimes occur on Australian soil because Australian Federal Police won't uphold their very own laws against those that lead us, Pauline? Is that where we've come to? An executive branch of government that overrules the entire population without recourse to the criminal code themselves. Is this where we come to, Pauline? Because we look at our usufruct problem, Pauline, and it's very clear that they come along and started to play around with our coal mines and our energy resources and our food resources, Pauline, to put us into a position of siege so that we would obey their whim, Pauline. And no one's looking at a crown level at the defence of this country, its people, its constitution and its wealth. You're all divvying up the wealth to everyone else because you wholly believe that at a God level that you're the administrator in the absence of. Well, we returned, put ourselves on a court record, pointed our finger at you for your crimes that you are committing and are expecting you to uphold the law, Pauline. Expecting you to uphold the law, Pauline. You may be a senator that a judge looks at in kind heart, but I need you to go and look at what happened to me and realise that not all judges in this country care about the citizenry, Pauline. They don't care about the citizenry, Pauline. I should have had reparations for what happened to me while working for government, Pauline. Go and have a look. This is how you treat the citizenry, Pauline. This is what I am directly demonstrating to everyone else around the country. Right? If you compare my court case with Pauline's court cases, you'll realise that Pauline was treated in a very different manner to a normal citizen that happened to. And that's a really sad thing when I've been fighting for 15 years just for justice in relation to things that occurred around me. And we're talking about enterprise bargaining agreements, Fair Work Australia, and the use of Michael Lawler to twist my case. Right? We could go further to the Craig Thompson affair, Pauline, and look at this credit card that was spelt in a different way. Thompson is not Thompson, is it, Pauline? Some kind of scams going on that involved Michael Lawler. There's a conspiracy going on inside the government, Pauline, and they've been caught out at it. They've literally been caught out at it. And it's about time you now accepted this position, because I don't sit here speaking liberally about this position for no reason, Pauline. It was sealed on a court record, proving that war crimes are being committed in this country today. And we're pushing you now, because now we're growing. Now we're making the country realise. We're using the court of public opinion in your failure, your absolute negligence as the Australian government to deal with these criminal offences, Pauline. This is now up to the people, the court of public opinion, to witness very clearly that the New South Wales Police commit international war crimes, Pauline. That the New South Wales Police have a failed command, Pauline. That New South Wales police officers break the law every day, Pauline. Every day, Pauline. And I don't see why the people of Australia, the Commonwealth of Australia, should put up with this crime going on our soil any longer, Pauline. Any longer, Pauline. You can't expect to sit there like a politician knowing, full well, knowing that we, the people of this Constitution, the Australian Imperial Crown, standing in lineage of our Anzac, are standing up and saying, it's enough, Pauline, it's over, Pauline, you cannot destroy our Constitution anymore, Pauline. Under the Cesta QV Act, we are home, Pauline. We return to our crown, Pauline, and we recognise that the nanny is a criminal, Pauline, a real criminal, Pauline, at international law. And I don't think this really sinks in while you continue to play politics, Pauline. right? And playing politics with the law is a very dangerous thing, Pauline, when treason is considered, and when treachery is considered, and when sabotage is considered. Especially sabotage of a referendum to sabotage the Constitution itself, Pauline. So it's kind of now time to recognise all these people around the country starting to agree with me, starting to recognise who their ancestry were, what their lineage means, who you are in this country, what's going on in this country, how you're getting away with serious international criminal offences, including Rule 90 and Rule 92 offences of the international humanitarian law, long before these lockdowns even occurred, Pauline. Long before. Which leads to the fact of the matter in that if that is true, then the latter is true. And you can't escape this fact anymore, Pauline. This is now at a point where I'm explaining this very clearly to you, Pauline, that you can't escape this fact. These are the facts of the matter that are coming out on the table, that everyone's going to learn, everyone can research, everyone can look in the history books and confirm. This is not something that is a fake reality, Pauline, having justices of the Supreme Court already agree with the foundations that set down in motion and the separation of power between an Australian Imperial Crown and a St Edward's Crown. And that naked ownership there, it is now standing there in front of your face, Pauline, as we stand up to you now, the nanny who has committed a whole bunch of heinous offences while in administration of the children. A children you would not let free, Pauline. Now, we're going to get into slavery and what bondage actually means while under usufruct, Pauline. These are real things that you can't really escape, given that they are out of your hands and out of the hands of most politicians and put in motion long before you even sat at a seat. These are things that are so large that you as politicians probably can't even entertain the argument of them, given that they are twisted legal concepts that you as politicians can't really waffle about. What is a bond, Pauline? What is bondage, Pauline? What is floating $1 on a New York Mellon stock exchange, Pauline? These are all real questions, Pauline. What is the Securities Act 1913 USA? What is the Securities Act 1933-34 USA? Why is Australia borrowing money through the Securities Act? And why is it using the people in bondage to borrow that money, Pauline? Is that slavery? Is that technical world slavery? We will investigate further, Pauline. We seriously will investigate further from our curial right, Pauline, like demonstrating this God-given right that opens this door to show us what bondage actually means, Pauline. What bondage actually means. And under the Slave Trade Act, we have a problem, don't we, Pauline? A Slave Trade Act 1873, 1874, the abolishment of slavery by William Wilberforce, 1807, you know, and then these Aboriginals try and make accusations that they are abused like slaves, when we're the people that abolished that slavery worldwide, including the Americas, Pauline, including the Civil War in America, Pauline. You know, so we'll investigate this a whole lot further as you fall and dwindle into the hell that you all deserve after you've committed insane international criminal offences that you've created over the last 6 or 7 years. I mean, we just label the Biosecurity Act as a midpoint, Pauline, a demonstrated midpoint that you had planned bio-warfare, Pauline. Planned bio-warfare, Pauline. And I said you're the chosen one, Pauline. You got this opportunity, Pauline, to actually speak up, to actually do something, because the court of public opinion isn't going to disagree with God. That's the bottom line, Pauline. The court of public opinion is not going to disagree with God and foundations laid down by forefathers and sovereignty and true real sovereignty and a true real connection to their dead, Pauline. Their forefathers that died so that this could be for them, Pauline. A real true spiritual connection that you as a foreign administrating power printed on your money supply for us to witness. Printed on your money supply for us to witness. Your money supply, Pauline. Your reserve bank currency, tin, copper, debased coinage, money supply, Pauline. You printed the spirit of the Anzac on the debt, Pauline. And it's very obvious to all today, Pauline. So this awakening, this real awakening of war crimes and criminal actions from within the Prime Minister's office, and a real conspiracy at law, Pauline, a real conspiracy at law to undermine the Constitution in the belief that they can manipulate what's called a Usufruct agreement, Pauline, a Usufruct agreement. And as naked owners from a crown with a curial right to our very own Constitution can now see the fraud that you're creating against our wealth, our Constitution, our people, and so forth, our laws, everything, Pauline. It's a total mockery to God nowadays in that this ending has come. And we're home. We are totally home. We are not going anywhere, Pauline. We can only grow from here, having the truth in our hearts and the truth in our souls and our soles of our feet on the very holy ground we hold sacred that is called the Commonwealth of Australia, Pauline, and that's not going away. That's not going away, an indissoluble federal commonwealth at which you actually administer, Pauline. The principle at which you administer can't be destroyed, can it? And when a naked owner presents himself as the owner to the very document at which you hold, you can't then twist that ownership over to someone else that you stole sovereignty from as well. I'll remind you of that, Pauline. Totally remind you of that, Pauline, is that you stole Aborigine sovereignty from them in 1967 and then are using them to steal white Australia's sovereignty from them in 2023. This is a very stark reality in that you, as a foreign administering power, are trying to undermine and disrupt a very constitution itself and undermining the sovereignty of two different peoples on a land. Two different peoples on a land. And one of those peoples, Pauline, is not exactly one people in that they recognised themselves that they were many peoples coexisting on a land next to the Crown, Pauline, next to the Australian Imperial Crown, Pauline. And all of us, those tribes and this Commonwealth, have had enough of your administration and defrauding and criminal actions and war crimes and humanitarian law offences, Pauline. We've had enough of watching this clown show. We've had enough of you debasing our language, our minds, our society. We've had enough of everything that we see in front of us. And we as men, and not a clown show, and standing with the gods of our fathers, kind of ask the nanny to stop lunacising our children at this point. You're turning the world into a lunatic asylum on purpose in the hope that it will collapse everything and you can take it over. Well, you haven't put everyone into that delusion, and that's your problem. Because you sealed this on the court record, Pauline, sealed it on the Supreme Court record, Pauline, sealed it on the very Supreme Court that you went and sat before, Pauline. That's the unusual part for everyone.